Welcome to another edition of Turf Talk. I'm Vance Hanson alongside James Scully, filling in for Ed DeRosa this week. Major Breeders' Cup preps, final weekend of Breeders' Cup preps at Belmont, Keeneland, and the Arc de Triomphe this past week in Paris, James. Let's start at Belmont Park. The star of the afternoon, Honor Code, running in the Kelso Handicap in advance of the Breeders' Cup Classic. A rather unconventional prep for the Classic, the one-turn mile. He didn't perform as well as expected in the slot, running a moderate third behind Lone Speed Appealing Tail, who you like going into the race. What do you think now of Honor Codes' chances going into the Classic off that prep?
Him getting beat didn't discourage me as far as his chances. I wasn't a big fan of him at 1.25 miles going in, but I think if you liked Honor Code, you shouldn't be disappointed with the third place finish. I mean, Chevy Gay, he made the point of, hey, I don't want him to run too big and then I have to build him back up. I just want an easier race than he would potentially have in the Jockey Club, and he got that. He ran on late. He's going to have a totally different pace scenario in the Breeders' Cup Classic, especially if Liam's Map is in there, and that race will set up better for his late kick. So I wasn't disappointed. If he had run 5th or 6th and had been one pace throughout, then I might have had a little bit of a different thought, but I thought it was a solid effort.
Yeah, I'm not trying to get too high or too low with this horse. He's run some moderate races in the past, like at Churchill Downs this past spring. It was a lesser effort than I was hoping he would produce in that particular race, but like you said, Shug wasn't looking for a hard prep. He's looking for something to build on, going 1.25 miles for the first time, and I think he probably got that. Some other races at Belmont on Saturday. Stephanie's Kitten won the Flower Bowl for a second time in a row. She's finally back to her best form after some moderate races earlier this year. We had a really good 2-year-old in Greenspoint Crusader winning the Champagne. He looks like a legitimate Breeders' Cup juvenile threat. Any of those races caught your eye specifically?
Well, Greenspoint Crusader, yeah, I mean, definitely, he ran that big race first time out at Saratoga, and there was a little bit of life and death to break his maiden at short odds, but I thought he took a big step forward off of that, and that was a solid effort. Nickname, who won the Frazette, that's obviously a really deep field, but boy, she is a good-looking filly, and Scat Daddy's leading sire of 2-year-olds this year, so another good performer for him. And Tonalist, Tonalist ran the race I think a lot of people expected, got another big, his numbers are huge this year, even though he's got 4 seconds and 2 wins, or 3 seconds and 2 wins, his numbers are huge. Just the big concern with him is, hey, how far back is he going to be at the top of the stretch at Keeneland? Is he going to come plunking up to get a small share or be 5th like he was last year? Or is he a legitimate contender? And, it's hard for me to really view him as a real serious win contender.
Yeah, and I didn't mean to inadvertently omit him from my question to you, but, the fact of the matter is Tonalist is kind of more of a Belmont Park horse. I mean, he proved it again, winning the Gold Cup for a second time. Right. He won the Belmont Stakes, the Westchester. It's just been hard for him to reproduce his very best form outside that track, even at Saratoga, which is only a few hours away. So that's why I'm kind of a little hesitant on his classic chances later at Keeneland this month. Turning to Keeneland, we lost our Indian summer here in Lexington last week. You and I were both out on Friday and Saturday, avoided some raindrops in the process. Sunday the weather broke, was nice for the Spinster, but obviously we had Runhappy in the Phoenix on Friday with a remarkable performance. Saturday, I think Tepin was the big star, Grand Arch in the Shadwell Mile, and then on Sunday the fillies and mares produced a thrilling photo finish in the Spinster. Got lucky. I don't know if those fillies and mares are going to quite topple I'm a Chatterbox or Sheer Drama at this point, but
and even Winning Toes, But the one thing is, I mean, that Spinster was a real tight 3-horse or 3-horse finish, and I won't be surprised to see the Distaff shape up the same way. I mean, it really looks like a race that's going to be wide open. Winning Toes is going to have numbers and big wins on a record, but she ran poorly in the Madison this spring, so her affinity for Keeneland, and she's a little bit like Tonalist, where she's got to prove it outside of Belmont Park. I did think that Runhappy was brilliant brilliant, but the fact that he was dead last, leaving the starting gate, a little bit of a slow start, he was fortunate all that speed was to his outside, and they let him just roll right up the rail, I thought. And, if they can get him to break, yeah, he could lead wire to wire in the sprint, but I think he's going to be a bet against in my book at short odds. And I'll add about the turf horses, Grand Arch likes Keeneland, ran another really good race, but I'm not too keen on his chances. Tepin looks interesting to me. I really think that, she's a very, very good turf horse, and given that race at Keeneland, she could potentially be a little bit of a factor in the Breeders' Cup Mile.
Yeah. Like you said, Runhappy, possibly a good bet against. I was just writing a story for our Breeders' Cup Primer sprint on the sprint today, and it's like 22% favorites have won the sprint over the last 3 decades. I mean, that's a good race to take a stand against favorites in.
Right.
Tepin, I totally agree. I think probably our best mile grass horse being Grand Arch, and now Ironicus is now out of it. I think she's going to represent the United States very well in this particular race. She has absolutely nothing to lose by running against males in the mile. I think she's a legitimate Turf Female Eclipse Award candidate right now, probably at the top of the class. So she really has nothing to lose by not going to the mile and 3/16 filly and mare turf.
Right.
And then, Greg, go ahead.
Oh yeah, and I was just going to add, I did like the Breeders' Futurity. I thought both the top two, Brody's Cause and Exaggerator, are going to have a chance, at least in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. That was kind of prep I like to see. And Gomo, who won the Alcibiades, I thought that was a really strong effort. She's just unfortunate in a sense for me because it's just going to be such a deep field. I mean, I mentioned that name, but Songbird's obviously the horse to beat, and Rachel's Valentina is a very good filly. So that's just such a deep race. It's tough to get excited about her chances.
It is, and I think neither the Alcibiades or the Frisette for me convinced me that either one of those fillies were going to match up with Rachel's Valentina or Songbird very well. Final stop, we'll talk about the Arc at Longchamp, Paris this past weekend. Golden Horn defeating Trev, who was looking for an unprecedented third win in the Arc. He defeats Flincher and New Bay, the Juddmonte pair. It sounds like Golden Horn is going to pursue the Breeders' Cup Turf here at Keeneland, which would be an amazing thrill to see a horse of that quality come over for our biggest turf race. Flincher, who's already been here and won the Sword Dancer, is expected to come. All of this, of course, is dependent on the ground. Neither horse likes soft turf, so
Right.
If it gets rainy, Breeders' Cup week, both of them will come out. You and I had a little bit of a discussion earlier today whether Golden Horn will enhance his legacy or not by winning the Breeders' Cup Turf. We were at somewhat of a disagreement. I'll just come out and say that if you're an Epsom Derby winner, an Arc winner, an Eclipse winner, Irish Champion winner, the Breeders' Cup Turf, as great a race as it is, isn't quite up to the standard of those 4 great European races. I don't think his legacy will be enhanced that great by winning it, but still it would be great for him to win it.
Well, I think I'm a little bit like you mentioned. I mean, I understand, those are important European races, but the Breeders' Cup Turf is still an important race, and I think the precedent, whether it's Godolphin or Coolmore or Juddmonte, those internationals coming over to pursue our big turf races like the Breeders' Cup, it makes for a great day of racing, and I think that Golden Horn, it would be a feather in his cap to conclude his career and with back-to-back wins in the Arc and Breeders' Cup Turf. So I'd like to see it happen. John Gosden is got, I think, 4 or 5 Breeders' Cup race wins. He's won the Classic and other races. So, I don't think he's looking at it as too much of an obstacle. And it would just add to a great day with all the stars in the Classic and other races to have those names here.
Absolutely. It would be a fantastic prelude to what's going to be an epic Breeders' Cup Classic, we hope, with American Pharoah, Honor Code, and Beholder climaxing the final 2 days of the Breeders' Cup meet at Keeneland on Halloween Day. And that's all for us on Turf Talk this week. Ed will be back next week, and take care. We'll see you then.